Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello once again. Welcome to another iteration.
That's right. They're not episodes. They're iterations.
I think I have not messed that up yet. Sorry. This is number 65 of, I don't know how many.
It's the 1st of December.
1st of December. My name is Josh Trelevin. With me on the other side of the table, as always,
Correctionist and co-host Ryan Kirkby.
Hey Ryan, how are you today this week?
I'm doing not too bad. I'm following up on my pursuit of trying to make sure I'm well rested. I found a caveat in that. I mean, I'm getting to bed at the right time, making sure I'm relaxed at the right time.
Yeah.
Turns out you need to sleep the full 8 hours to gain a full 8 hours rest. And waking up at like 4 in the morning because you forgot to drink that day and you're really dehydrated right now kind of ruins any attempt at a full, fair night's sleep.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to... Yeah. You didn't get back to sleep after?
Oh, I did, but it was still midway through the night, and then all of a sudden it's another 3 more hours left. You don't get the full, REM cycle sleep. I'm not as well rested, at 8 in the morning as I usually am.
Oh, I see. Okay. So even with a young kid, you're able to... I guess with just one kid, it's not... And if she's good, too.
Well,
so
she is well sleep-trained, and you give her, the full 6 ounces right now of formula before she goes to bed at, say, 11 o'clock. She will be down till about 8:30, depending on the circumstances of what's going on outside. Someone honks a horn, she might get up early, geese go by. You never know what'll stir her up enough to wake up.
Okay, but mostly it's cool.
Yeah, well, heck, she's so polite. Sometimes... she'll wake up and then she'll just sit around, lay around, just be quiet, looking at things. Just taking stock, kind of muttering quietly to herself, just all peaceful. If she wants something, she'll start mentioning things loudly, and then, okay, she's up. Okay, we're up too now.
Yeah.
But she's, fingers crossed, oh, thank goodness, a very polite waking baby.
So, any good dreams? Any good simulations?
Nothing worth noting, but I am really remembering them a lot better now. It turns out all I really needed to remember my dreams better was to get to sleep at a proper hour.
But it turns out they're not that good, so...
Well, they're nothing I would, write up. I mean, I've had some dreams where I've got some files on my computer about really deep, weird things going on. I was like, I have to type this down. I must type as much as I can before I forget it. And I'll come back 3 or 4 months later and I'll read it holy crap, well, you really do go insane when you go to sleep. This is like the ramblings of a madman.
Yeah.
Nicely done, though. I might be able to truncate this, work up that, maybe move it into something there. But I'll keep it as is. But yeah, I mean, I'm remembering the dreams better. And that's just great for me. Because I think it's always nice to know what's going on and what catches your mind. There have been a few times, I was watching this with my daughter, and then there's one character in my dreams, when I wake up, I'm like, oh, that was really the one character from the one cartoon I watched with my daughter, just, with a different look, because this time, in my dream she had to be a person instead of a talking animal, but it's really the same person, and I can see that now. So it's nice being able to dissect my dreams a little bit, because you know me, I like to dissect all my fiction. And if it's my own stuff, the stuff that comes up when I'm hallucinating in the middle of my night's sleep, I think that gets better insight as to what's caught my attention during the day, even if it really didn't seem to catch my attention. Like that talking animal, sure, whatever, just a secondary character in the thing, and yet they were in my dream. As a full person, because that would have been too weird for my dream apparently to have just a talking animal, but they were there. Same personality, same turns of phrase. There they are. Why did that catch? I may have to watch this again, or another thing in the series. Maybe there's something more to this character. Apparently my subconscious thinks so.
Well, I don't listen to too much of what your subconscious tells you because it's crazy. But anyways.
It's inherently illogical, and as a person who strives to have a deep concept of logical, consciousness, I find it worth analysis. So, the whole sleep, 8 full hours is really giving me some nice benefits, in addition to bringing my A game every week to another iteration.
Well, that sounds good. Should we go into what other kinds of fiction you've been consuming? Or?
Oh, I managed to consume a very nice piece of fiction this week. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. 1948, marked by a lot of the scholars of the cinema as the ending of the great Universal monster movies. It had not just, Frankenstein, it had Bela Lugosi, Dracula, the Lon Chaney Jr., Wolfman. I've mentioned very high praise to both the actors, especially the Wolfman. He really presents both a sympathetic character and an incredibly well-coiffured, horrible monster. The makeup team was great on that sort of stuff, and so even though he was a beast, his hair was perfect.
Oh, he's the Wolfman?
Yeah, okay. And that's why they have that line in the Frank Zappa song, Werewolves of London. His hair was perfect. Comes from the image of the Lon Chaney Jr. werewolf, who, even though he's a feral beast, his hair is magnificent. But yes, a nice little cameo at the end for the voice of the Invisible Man, done by Vincent Price, before he was ever actually the Invisible Man in any of the movies. So technically that was his first appearance as the Invisible Man, or non-appearance Invisible Man stuff. Great thing, as opposed to, the House of movie I talked about, a few weeks back. This one really had a lot more interaction between the monsters, in addition to Abbott and Costello. The Abbott and Costello characters play a nice pivotal role. What's going on there is Dracula has the works of, Dr. Frankenstein. He wants to build, a proper, Frankenstein monster. He has the original, but you know what? That criminal brain is causing problems. He can't properly hypnotize him like he can, because he keeps, killing children and stuff, as Frankenstein is wanting to do. And so he needs a nice, easy, malleable, soft, non-criminal brain. He needs someone stupid and malleable, and his assistant, played by a wonderful, beautiful lady, has just managed to seduce a wonderfully stupid and easily, a malleable mental character, played by Mr. Costello himself.
Oh, yes, of course.
And meanwhile, Lon Chaney, Jr. as, Lawrence Talbot he's trying to stop this because, even though he's a monster sometimes, this is beyond getting fixed up being a werewolf. This is like stopping Dracula from making a perfect minion, because the concept of Dracula perfectly controlling one or more Frankenstein-type creatures, well, that's a pretty big power play. Then you don't need to worry much about, sunlight. Oh no, they'll stab me while I sleep during the day. No, I got 4 Frankensteins, one for each corner of my coffin.
Speaking of that, I'm just curious as a side note, these movies are wartime era, or this is
slightly post-wartime era. This is about 3 years after World War II ended.
So are they, when they make these movies, are they thinking in terms of, this Dracula, he could, make super soldiers for the Nazis? Or
no, this would be before that. This would be when there was still the monster was a monster. I mean, Dracula could ostensibly go around biting a lot of soldiers and then have this is my blood corps army sort of thing,
Yeah.
But no, he doesn't do that. Why? Because he seduces young ladies. He's a person of aristocratic refinement and taste, and having his own standing army, that's marks of the rabble and common backwoods rulers and despots. He's a refined character.
All right. So do they not mention things like wars and, well, I guess post World War II that might be, they might not be trying not to think about the war because it's been going on for so long, I guess.
From what I've seen from movies of that era, it was a common thing where, it's like, oh yeah, I served in the army. And you see that in a lot of things, even up until the 80s TV series, where, a person will have a back history that involves them being in World War II.
Okay, but the movie just doesn't seem to...
No.
Yeah,
no.
but yeah, okay, it's in the background.
If you do want a good monster as part of World War II, I recommend The Munsters.
Oh.
Herman Munster, who is ostensibly the Frankenstein monster.
Yeah.
He has a history. He was like a German. He moved to England. He got adopted by so-and-so Munster. He took the name. And then during World War II, he fought on the side of the Allies. And despite being big and scary, and like a lot of the jokes is like, oh, somebody sees Herman Munster and they freak out. He's a huge guy.
Yeah.
No, his old battle buddies loved him.
Yeah,
they say he was worth 3 people on the field, and there'd be times they'd be wounded. He'd pick up like a couple of them, just toss them on the shoulder. He'd keep on fighting. So and the concept of Frankenstein fighting in World War II on the side of the Allies, just like he's got 2, 3 wounded soldiers under one arm. He's got like a gun. He's firing, shooting Nazis with the other hand as he makes his retreat. That's a powerful sight. The fact that nobody's decided to put this up as like a nice image, like a nice painting sort of thing, I think that's a loss for all humanity.
Yeah, I mean, you'd put that above your bed in your bedroom?
Well, maybe not the bed, but I've seen I've seen wonderfully done pictures of Christopher Walken in a garage making Optimus Prime, or B. Arthur wrestling velociraptors and winning.
Okay.
And so this sparks me. This would be nice as part of the series, It's
right.
like, and then it's Herman Munster during World War II being like an incredible combat hero.
Yeah, if that guy's listening, there's another idea for you.
Yeah, maybe I'll send a note his way saying, look up some of the Munster stuff, buddy. You can get a real nice image or two there.
Yeah.
But no, the Abbott and Costello was a wonderfully done thing.
Okay, so it was a good movie then.
It was much
and funny.
It was funny. Abbott and Costello, I mean, just the sight gags alone that they do, just magnificently timed. These guys are pros. There's a reason why they were able to do Who's on First 5 days a week for years at a time on the radio.
Yeah, because they're funny. Okay.
They're funny, and they can change things up. They can change things a little bit on the fly, and it'll still be funny. They know what is funny, and then they know how to go from where I am to funny. And there was even one scene I remember looking at, because I look up the Wikipedia afterwards, and I look at the little factoids. There's one scene where, Costello sits down on a chair that the Frankenstein monster's on, and, it's him sitting down, and, there's an extra hand there, and it's how he looks, and it's like, okay, is that my hand? So he, smacks the one hand with his fist, and it's like, smacks the other one, that one hurt, that one's mine. But apparently he was so funny, they had to do multiple takes for that, because the guy who was playing Frankenstein kept bursting out into laughter. This is a guy who knows how to get to where you want to be. He can map the course of hilariousness.
Okay.
Which I think is better than just having a good comedy routine. Anybody can deliver a good line time and again, but how do you get to a punchline from anywhere? That takes true comic genius, I think.
Okay, yeah. Well, comic genius. There you go.
Well, I think anybody who's heard them knows they're comic geniuses. I mean, there's very little people are willing to argue. Maybe who's more genius, them or like Three Stooges. Wow, that's open for debate. But they're genius. Okay. You can't deny that. Unless you have no sense of humor. That's the only way you can defend otherwise. But wonderful movie. Much more interaction between the monsters. In fact, the final scene had the Frankenstein monster recharged and loose, and he's chasing after Abbott and Costello as the Wolfman and Dracula fight each other throughout the castle. And the fact that the Wolfman and Dracula are considered like the B part of what's going on is because, Abbott and Costello are the main guys in the movie. They're running from the Frankenstein monster, and they enter a room, and then there's the battle going on between the other two monsters, and then they get out of the way of that. Oh, there's the Frankenstein monster again, so they got to keep running, and they go back into the thing. The fact that the Wolfman and Dracula were fighting across an area makes it seem much more epic in scope, as opposed to just the two of them locked together in like stranglehold combat, as you could usually see that time. Bela Lugosi is not a physically active man in 1948. He's not the kind of guy who goes for a couple laps around the block every morning. So, like, a fight with him could very much easily be him, choking and staring at the other guy. Just intently, the whole I hate you sort of, vampiric gaze he's known for.
They wanted to do a lot of physical, a lot of motion, and a lot of...
It really did come across as a much more epic battle. Dracula's abilities, as it turns out, don't really work well on a wolfman whose just mentality is pure feral rage. So he can't just look into my eyes and hypnotize you and dominate you with his will. No, this is a pure, claws and anger. I'm going to rip everything to shreds. you're lucky if the walls escape unscathed. And so, yeah, Dracula has to, resort to doing... He's actually on the retreat throughout the fights as the Wolfman presses the offensive.
Okay.
And so I really found the fight much more engaging than almost anything else in a lot of the other movies, because most of the movies at that time, all the action happens in the last 10 minutes and it's just one scene. This had much more of like a grand sense going on to it, and I very much liked that.
Ah, cool.
So yes, if you do want to see a nice, comedy horror where the monsters actually interact, avoid, the House of Dracula and all that, the House of Frankenstein, that sort of stuff. You go for the Abbott and Costello
Go
stuff.
straight to Abbott and Costello. Okay.
They're your go-to guys. And their movie is considered a nice high note, final note for the Universal monster movies. So at least it ended on a high note as opposed to just, and then they've continued to produce stuff of middling quality that no one ever wanted to see. There's always something nice to be said about that. And that was my big part of fiction this week, was just seeing a really good fight, between classic monsters. So, honestly, I think I found it more engaging than the fights in Van Helsing. Although the fights in Van Helsing were done in a much more dramatic angle, so if you want to see, like, the dramatic styles, yeah, go see Van Helsing on that.
Cool.
Even if the plot is weak.
Okay, yeah.
No one claimed the Van Helsing plot was very strong. So, there you go. How about you this week, though, Josh? What fiction did you partake in?
A couple of things. I mean, I'm always playing Minecraft, so I dug a giant tunnel from my from the town of Porcinia, that's my pig farm town, over to
Maybe
a
you
mushroom
should rename
farm.
that to Cincinnati.
Okay.
Cincinnati's huge pork processing capital historically.
Maybe I will. So I dug a giant tunnel and planted mushrooms all along the side of it so I could grow more mushrooms because, they were going really, like I dug a lot of caverns and stuff to just put more and more in, but they were going really slow, so dug even more.
You had to do it professional style.
Yeah, and that took a while to do. But that's
So how wide do you make your big hallway areas when you're doing the underground tunnels? Do you keep it the 1 wide standard, 2 wide for a little extra room, or 3 wide for a grand sense?
Well, if we're talking about the mushroom farm, like most of the mushroom tunnels are 4 wide and 2 tall, so they have a fairly low feeling ceiling, and they have just enough. Oh no, sorry, are they 4 wide or? They're actually 6 wide, but they have a little ledge on the side, so. For the mushrooms, because I don't harvest the ones on the ledge. I let them grow into the middle and harvest those ones. So you have you seed mushrooms.
Take them along your walkway.
Yeah. It's sort of 6 wide, sort of 4-ish. Like you can walk.
It's a proper 4 wide for the main thing with a 2 alcove on the side sort of system.
Yeah, that's how it works. And then my big tunnel is the same, except that I made the ceiling extra high. So it's like...
You don't worry too much about, like, Endermen coming in and all of a sudden you're in a hallway and all you can see is them staring back at you getting angry, right?
Yeah, I get lots of monster spawns in there because I don't light it up as
well. It's a mushroom farm.
Yeah.
Would that they could provide some sort of light system that's just enough to keep monsters away but not enough to shun the mushrooms.
Well, there actually is a way to do it. It's possible, because mushrooms grow at, I think, 12 and lower, and monsters spawn at 8, so 8 to 12 light. But it's hard to do that over an entire room.
If only there was like a low light pumpkin, though, you could place on the floor that only provides such light, so that every third square you could put like this low light pumpkin, so that you never have to worry about it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Or something like that. I don't know. Maybe something smaller than a pumpkin, I suppose, like a turnip with a candle.
A lighted turnip.
Well, I think that's what one of the things they were actually using instead of pumpkins. They went to the New World and said, "Whoa, this is so much bigger and easier to use than what we were historically using. Jack-o'-lantern, you're now a pumpkin."
Huh.
At least that's what I've been told.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Well, we can always wiki it later. For all I know, it's an urban legend, and I've been fooled. Snopes will set me right.
Yeah, carved turnip sounds legit.
Or gourds, smaller gourds sort of thing.
Gourds, yeah. That's good. I don't know. I think that covers Minecraft. I also, I think I mentioned last time, I got a new tablet, so I'm very excited about that because I've never had one of those before.
You can do, you can fling birds at pigs, and you can, fling seeds at zombies and all sorts of stuff.
Yes, I get all the games that I couldn't get before. I started Candy Crush. I think people are talking about it.
My wife plays it about as often as I play any of the stuff on Facebook.
Okay, yeah. So, I'm trying to play it. Okay, here's my strategy. Don't pay for anything, and don't share it with it. Oh, I guess I'm breaking that rule because I'm sort of talking about it now. But I'm trying to play it without having to do what they're trying to get me to do, which is to
be
buy.
The social stuff, pay the money, and have your friends send you.
So those are the two things they're trying to get me to do, and I'm trying my hardest not to do those. It's very tempting because you could play this next level for only 99 cents.
On the other hand, if you get yourself a coupon, 99 cents will get you like a sub, or like a burger or something at a fast food place.
Depending where you go, yeah.
Maybe the right day of the week, it gets you an entire burger that you really don't want to eat because it's kind of cheap and skeezy. But it could still get you that food. So you got to think about what else the 99 cents could buy. That'll help distract you from it.
I do wonder, though, if my sort of rebellion, I wonder how many other people are similarly rebelling. And because that strategy seems to have worked, and it seems to still be working, but I wonder if it'll have an end at some point. Where it's like, no, people will refuse. People will revolt against your 99-cent strategy. Or do you think...
Provided you keep it fairly cheap, most people are accepting about it. Like, it's kind of like a minor transaction fee, but it does help maintain, new product in the game, and because if it was just a completely free game, there's no money being made on it, what's the purpose for the company to actually keep up on things? So that is where they get you, and they try and say, you can buy this item with a special currency that comes in very small doses, or you can pay money for it.
And that's the other thing is if I'm getting a good experience, I don't mind paying for it. I don't mind saying, I'll throw you 99 cents. I'll even throw you what I would normally pay for a game. But in a way, the game for me has become, how do I not pay them?
To be fair, there's always fun with that mini game. I have a lot of fun seeing how far I can make it on some games without actually, being social. And, there's one game that's like, I would get 100% completion on this level if I was to ask for, this item that is only available for people who send it to me.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I don't want to be the kind of person that says, hey, I need you to sign up for this whole thing so you can send me stuff. Like, I'll do that for other people. It's like, you want me to sign up just so you can, click on me once a day and get something from me? Yeah, I'll do that for you.
Yeah.
But I am a little hesitant on asking in return for that. It seems a little intrusive, and I like trying to see how far I can go being a single player in a multiplayer styled game.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of games I play single player. Like, I played World of Warcraft mostly single player. I mean, I did dungeons and stuff, but mostly I played in the world.
There's a lot to be done in the world.
Yeah, true. I mean, there's a lot of content.
Now that they have the looking for dungeon stuff, now you can really get in there at their appropriate levels. Like, I remember, people would be in the zone just like, I need someone to help me with Wailing Caverns. I need help. Come on, anybody. We just need more, DPS. Anybody's willing to come in. And so it'd be, in addition to all the standard stuff you'd encounter in the horrible, horrible Barons chat. Now, before I left the game, I won't say quit. I'm just not part of it. I don't have the time. I don't have the financial resources. I got a kid. All that goes straight to her instead. Mm-hmm. But yeah, before I left, that was implemented, and things were going much smoother, especially if you were healer or tank. Like, you could actually progress in levels in those classes, as opposed to trying to venture out into the world, which would eat you alive because you're not stacked for DPS, which is where they shine very well.
Mm-hmm.
C'est la vie.
Yeah, okay, well, I think that's basically what I've been doing, games-wise and fiction-wise. I started reading The Arenda by... Oh, I can't remember the author. I'll have to link it. Oh no, there it's Joseph Boyden is the name. the author. It's one of the Canada Reads titles, which
yes.
Are in contention, I suppose.
And let me just say, I love Canada Reads. The concept of us, as a nation, deciding which is the best book of the year, and then having great celebrities trying to, each one of them backing a book and forming nice, cogent arguments as to what makes their book so great. And I remember, there was that one guy from, he was just like a dad from the TV series, like Growing Pains. And just hearing him say why this book was so good and that it had such a fundamental as to what it means to be Canadian in this in the day and age it was presented at, and this is if you want to understand what being Canadian was like in this era, read this book. And hearing that, it's just like, oh, that was nicely done, and it just has such a nice atmosphere of literacy, and just especially pro literacy, because let's face it, you watch TV, and there's so much of that horrible, just non-scripted, like reality in quotation marks TV that just seems to be playing to the lowest denominator, which is okay sometimes. But it's just nice to see that, oh yes, and then we all talk about which is the best Canadian book of the year. And we shall have nice arguments as to, not, heated arguments, but nice arguments as to why this book deserves a chance in the spotlight, why this one deserves to be best of the year. And I really like that.
Well, I like the discussion of them. I mean, I take issue a little bit with the, finally deciding this book is better than those other books. But I guess that's part of just what you have to do. It's the nature of...
The fact that, any book that gets talked about and has, like, a good argument, who's it this year? They got, was it Ben Johnson doing an argument? One of the athletes, and just being able to hear... Donovan Bailey, yes.
Not Benjamin.
Sorry, I knew it was a runner.
Yeah,
I just couldn't remember which runner. And just the concept that he would sit down, and say, I read the book, I liked it. Because, let's face it, the concept of a dumb athlete sort of, stereotype is around there. But, Donovan Bailey comes in and says, I like this book because they have Samantha Bee from the Daily Show.
From the Daily Show.
She's known for just giving a good comedy one-liner. And she was talking about one book that, when she thinks about it and a little bit too concentrated, as to what it means, she starts getting ready to cry. And just being able to chance to see these people as people and not just, oh, she's a comedian, he's an athlete, this person is a TV actor. No, seeing them as people, too, I think really drives home that it's they're not just two-dimensional. And so it has a nice side benefit for me.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So I wanted to say, like, the chapters that I've read so far, it reminds me of Game of Thrones, which is unfortunate because I think Game of Thrones is a very high bar to hit. As far as the Arenda moves slower than Game of Thrones does. Game of Thrones is faster and more interesting, and I think it's got everything done right. Well, I mean, I'm sure there are flaws in it, but as the Arenda is not as fast paced, and it's a little more, I don't know, it feels more introspective, I guess. Is
it like more like watching like a chess thing happening where you're playing on one side and so you have to think things through and so you get much more of the inner monologue as things are going on? Or does it just seem to be just a slower pace?
I guess, chess, I don't know. Game of Thrones never felt like chess. Well, it's like speed chess or something, I guess.
Where you get the two people, each one smacking the clock after smack a clock. They got 5 minutes total for the game, which is something, I suppose, I never got into it myself, but I can understand the appeal for some people. They don't want to watch like a 3-hour game of just chess. No, time trial this thing. Just get it moving.
Which is, it's odd to say Game of Thrones is speed chess when the books are like, I don't know how many pages.
As big as a phone book sort of thing.
They're huge books.
They will stop, well, maybe not the new, bullets, but maybe the old-timey lead bullet sort of thing, the Wild West. Yeah, that'll stop at an Old West bullet.
Yeah. But I'm not very far into the Arenda, so it might turn out to be better or it might not get better. I don't know.
Maybe it'll take a change. Maybe you'll say, I was completely wrong about it, comparing it to the Game of Thrones. It was really much more of its own thing, and I have a hard time now comparing the two.
Yeah. Well, so there will be updates. I will continue in the coming weeks. I'll update the listeners. I do recommend reading it.
And if you want to hear someone else, recommending it, there's always the Canada Read stuff.
And so
I think the CBC website has it all up on there.
Yeah, you'll have to check the CBC.
They got all sorts of fun stuff over there. Give it a look-see whenever you want to catch some news in addition to wonderful fiction.
Yeah.
Speaking of news, though, we do have some fiction-based news for this week.
Okay, move on to that.
All right. 1 week ago, because we're doing this on Sunday, so it'll be 1 week and a day ago, episode of Family Guy aired, and one of the main characters died. Apparently, for reals! Because they've like, oh no, they killed Lois before, but no, it was just like a simulation of Brian, a simulation of Stewie. He's going through like, can I get away with it?
Okay.
And while he becomes president, he doesn't get away with it. No, this is apparently for real sort of thing. And Brian Griffin was hit by an errant driver.
So the dog.
Yes, and died.
So the Griffin's cartoon dog got hit and died. You don't see that too often. Well, I mean, The Simpsons had dogs and cats that died, right?
Well, they killed Maude Flanders.
And
they've gone through at least 4 snowballs.
Well, I guess The Simpsons animals never talked.
Well, there was that one time with Stampy where the animals were being ignored, and they managed to come out with "Ray River." But that was just for a joke. It was kind of a creepy joke, just seeing them stand on their hind legs and speak like people, and then just be ignored because they're not an elephant. But just the one time for a joke, and maybe in hallucinations.
So, what implications does this have?
Well, see, that's the thing is I made sure to check the comments on there, and it really came down to 2 main groups. One saying it should have been X instead. Most of it was like, it should have been Meg. She only says like 3 lines per episode now at most. On the other hand, Meg is kind of I guess the term is butt monkey. She absorbs the abuse. If something happen, damn it, Meg, it's all your fault. And she's just walking in on the scene. It's funny. She's she winds up getting all the ill will. For no reason, really. It's a running gag, and it seems to have a purpose for it. So, I can see why they didn't go with that. And other people going, it should have been, Peter, because he's so stupid, I hate the show because of him. There's a difference between stupid and too stupid, apparently. Peter Griffin is on one side of it, Homer Simpson is on the other, I would assume. You don't hear people saying, I wish Homer Simpson would just die. They'd say... They'll say, I wish The Simpsons would end. They don't say, I wish this series was completely redeemable if Homer has a heart attack and dies. No.
Yeah.
So, apparently Homer's on one side. He's stupid enough to keep going, but Peter Griffin is too stupid, and maybe he should just be killed instead of Brian.
That's interesting about Peter Griffin, because he does sometimes do pretty reprehensible things.
Oh, that's the thing. So. That's one of the best times is when he's being so incredibly irresponsible, it's farcical.
Yeah,
in which case it becomes almost like, maybe even you can call it a satire of the stupid father figure.
Yeah.
It's like, he's so stupid, he's, this is something nobody would ever do, and why, this is like so far beyond that, it has to be, some sort of parody or satire. Or maybe they just need another 5 minutes of jokes to go in because they were running short on the episode length. I don't know. I sometimes think too high, so I like to make sure, maybe they just needed to pad it out. Peter does something extra stupid. Put that in there, 5 minutes filler.
Now, the other thing about the cartoons is, hasn't, Brian the dog, hasn't he been hit by cars and been shot and, been maimed before?
There have been a few times where he's been knocked unconscious, I recall.
And it's weird because in the cartoon world, well, I guess Seth MacFarlane always does the thing where the Roadrunner or the Coyote gets run over and just is a pile of,
Yeah, I remember him doing a long thing about, Wile E. Coyote finally catches the Roadrunner and how his life completely derails because that was all what he did. Once that's done, he's got nothing to his life. Which is a little deep and kind of haunting when you think about it. But it was meant for a joke, in the end he's just watching TV doing nothing with the Roadrunner's skull on top of the television.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know why do you have to make a cartoon that points out that cartoons don't work the way real life works, because don't we all know that already? And so don't we already see people getting run over and chopped into bits and then coming back the next episode?
Well, here's the thing is that I think in this case it was just they felt like it needed some change. Something had to change. And, well, I suppose given that McFarlane voices 3 of the main characters, it has to be one of them. Peter's apparently too integral to kill off. He is the protagonist, if not the source of many of the storylines.
So is he reducing his commitment to the show? Is that why?
No. Well, it would just be like if they killed Chris off, then it would have been Seth Green was completely written out. What does he do now for voices? He's not in there anymore. He got written out.
Yeah.
So, given that McFarlane voices 3 of the characters, it would seem, I suppose, only fair it was one of his voices that go, because it's not like he loses out on there. He's still got 2 main character voices.
I don't know. Like, I'd be curious to see his contract to see if he gets, like, extra money for each character he plays.
I think he gets a standard fee no matter how much he is. Not like he's paid per line sort of thing. The concept of Stewie dying would have been maybe too haunting. The concept of, because there's Dark and then there's Dead Baby Dark, and I can see them not wanting to cross that line, even though they're known for crossing their lines.
And so they already did Lois once, because it wasn't real.
Well, that's the thing is then the actress who does Lois would have to either be reduced to bit roles or just be effectively she's no longer a part of the series.
Yeah.
So I can see why they made it one of those 3 voices. The other bit for the main comments was, will the show be as good? Because the best rated, the best critically acclaimed episodes were the Stewie and Brian episodes, the Road 2 series, where it's just the 2 of them doing something and everyone else has maybe got a scene in there, but it's just them going from A to B and having adventures. A parallel of the old Road 2 series that they did with the celebrities back then. And I gotta admit, I like the Road 2 series. I like the original Road to Rhode Island, which is considered the best episode of the entire run right now. The Road, where they go back in time to Nazi Germany, where they go, through the multiverse. All the Road 2 stuff was very nicely done. I quite liked it. I loved the 2 characters and how they worked together back and forth. Maybe because they were the smartest 2 characters. It's always nice seeing 2 smart characters go somewhere, and then when they make a stupid decision, they have a logical reason behind it, and that's kind of fun to see. Where is the logic in this stupid action? They're not stupid people. They'll have a reason for it. The why is sometimes better than the, what actually happens for me. So without one of these 2 main characters there, will the show continue to produce these wonderful things like, if you saw one episode of this season, it has to be this episode here? Can they keep that up? Will they have it be, with one of the other characters? Will Meg take that role? Will it be, like Meg and Stewie going off on the Road 2 series? Can that make the character better? The change will ultimately, as they move things around, the change will probably wind up becoming better because you remove one character, a little bit more spotlight for others. You can play around with that, but that was a lot of the other comments. It's like, without this one character, and let's face it, the Road 2 series was almost like a sub-series of its own. Almost like a once per season kind of, like a spin-off, I suppose you could think of it as. Without that there, will people keep wanting to come back? I don't know. I liked Brian. I think he was a good character. The concept of, the only sane man in a comedy series was interesting to see, especially when that sane man was not a man at all, but a talking dog.
Okay, yeah.
So, I hope they can do it. I hope this is not a bad mistake, and it's like, you can really tell this is when the series kind of ended. Don't watch anything after that.
Well,
Brian
now,
died.
let me ask you, are you watching Family Guy sort of on a regular basis?
No, because I'm busy doing a podcast when that's on.
Is it on the same time as we record?
I think it's on as we're speaking right now.
Oh, okay.
If it's on TV, for a rerun, I don't have Netflix.
Oh, you don't have Netflix.
I'm so cheap, I won't pay $8 a month for almost unlimited movies.
I don't have Netflix either, so.
But, if it's on TV, I'll give it a watch. If The Simpsons are on, it's like, it's an episode from that. I don't think I've seen that one. I'll give that a watch. I don't go out of my way. It's not like, I can't tape with you on the Sunday nights, Josh.
Yeah.
Future, I'm on Family Guy and Simpsons are on. I have to sit down for 90 minutes and watch these guys. But, if it's on, I'll definitely watch it. I'll give it a lot more preference on my selection, like what's coming up in the next half hour on TV. A lot of reality TV, some news I think I may have already seen before, and oh hey, Family Guy. I'll at least have that on in the background.
Okay.
So I do at least respect the series, even if I'm not a fan of every episode. But yeah, it's like I do care about the character. I think Brian was perhaps my most favorite of the main characters. Although I do kind of like the Meg role. She has her brief moments, and it's always fun to see that shine through. Maybe with Brian gone, she'll get more screen time. Maybe she'll have that time to shine through more often. And then people will say, 2 seasons down the road, it's like, oh, I'm glad it wasn't Meg. She's really come into her own since she had this extra screen time.
I'm very scared. I don't think that's likely, but okay. And that's funny that you would say that Meg is your second favorite character on Family Guy.
Well, maybe just because I'm partial to the actress. I do like her.
The one from that 70s show.
Yes, Mia Kunis.
Yes.
I said I didn't like the character from that 70s show. I do like the actress, though, and a lot of the other stuff she's done. I find her to be at one with my sensibilities. If she's in like a romantic comedy, I'll watch that, because I'm thinking it's got enough decent comedy, I will get some good laughs out of that, and it won't be just like the bad, like, let's put a couple of bad one-liners in here and then make it like a Hugh Grant, oh, I'm so charmingly clumsy.
Oh, you don't like Hugh Grant?
He's got his place, but I'm not going to go see a movie because it's him.
Okay.
He's got his own sort of comedy sort of thing where he's attractive but bumbling, haha, and British, which is apparently an extra factor to throw in. I don't know.
But you do a British accent.
But with Mia Kunis there, I'm like, she probably liked the jokes well enough, and I've seen enough stuff of her before. If she went in for these sorts of things, they probably have the kind of jokes I'm willing to give a good laugh at. I'll give it a chance. So she has some street cred, in air quotes there with me. She's in a movie.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the proper term is.
Well, I think it'd just be playing cred.
Okay. So she's got cred with me. If she's in a movie, I'm more willing to see it. So maybe I grant her character on Family Guy a little bit, better limelight.
Okay, yeah.
I think the character has a lot of untapped potential, because they seem to only refer to her every once in a while, and she's almost... I sometimes watch an episode of Family Guy and think, like, what if there was like a Meg show going on somewhere else, like a counter series that's like her life, and the rest of the family's only briefly mentioned. Maybe they only get 1 or 2 lines per episode there. Maybe is that what they're supposed to do, or am I just overthinking this?
Well, I wonder too if the Meg show wouldn't be like completely a different format. It wouldn't be just like the Hannah Montana or something.
Well, the way I see it is, it would maybe be like what was that series, My So-Called Life, that was critically acclaimed back in 1990, whatever, but only had 1 season.
Yeah. And
it's the role of like a teenage girl, and she's the focus. And so maybe that's what they kind of intend for. It's like, okay, and then you see Meg come on for a little bit. She gets a few lines. But in her own show, she's got her own thing, and that's just the one bit where the rest of her family interact, and they get the 1 line each apiece, and then it's back to her and her life.
Well, I guess. I mean, I can't...
I'm probably overthinking it. I'm willing to admit.
That's a fun thing to think, I guess. But, I mean, from what I've seen of the few clips I have seen of Meg and the Family Guy, is that she has a very sad life, and that not a lot is going on for her. And it's...
Which is not to say you can't make a good TV format around, the loser. I mean, for a long time in comics, Spider-Man was the guy who saved the day, but never got any acclaim. He never got any real reward. He was the, he's a 24-karat, gold loser. And no matter how good he was as a hero, as Peter Parker, he was always like the butt monkey of life.
Well, but no one would read his comic if it was just Peter Parker spends the weekend in his room.
But maybe that's the thing. Maybe Meg's life has got something going on, and then what you just see is just her being the butt monkey where that everyone else sees. Maybe she's got a rich fantasy life. Maybe she has wonderful things where she goes into her own mind, where she looks like she's like laying on her bed, but she's really in a dream sequence, like a little Nemo type thing going on. I don't know.
I think
I'm probably reading way too much into this.
Yeah, I think you're just inventing stories, which is fine. I mean, that's your prerogative.
But here's the thing: I can see this in there. I think the main character has a decent amount of potential, because I'm able to see like they could be doing this with her all along. So maybe with Brian out of there and the Brian-based stories, because he's had more Brian episodes than there have been Meg episodes.
Yeah.
Maybe with him out of the format, maybe she gets an episode to herself. Maybe there's a little bit more for the other members that don't get the time. Maybe it's more for some of the other B characters.
No,
naked, greased up deaf guy.
Oh yeah. I think, well, I mean, with cartoons, of course, they're by definition two-dimensional. But I think if Meg was intended to have a rich inner life, thought life, I think we would have seen it. Because the reason, what you get with Brian and Stewie is you get a glimpse into their imaginations. And you get a glimpse into the rich, worlds that the two of them create together. Whereas with Meg, there doesn't seem
Well,
to
that's
be
the thing. It's the last time I saw Meg interact with a character was involved a closet and 7 minutes of heaven with a person who wound up being her brother. And that was pretty creepy. And that was like the most they wound up, for like an interaction. I would like to see her with maybe one of the other characters. Maybe she, has something in common. She could find like a good common ground with Joe Swanson, the next door neighbor. You're not going to find out because there's so many people that like Brian. They're going to focus, okay, maybe we could make a story out of this, but we're going to have to do definitely more Brian-based stuff because that's where the audience is.
So the lesson is kill the popular character.
Well, the lesson is that just because things change doesn't mean you can't have good things come out of it. Brian was a much-loved character, and I will, if he stays dead, mourn his loss because I liked him as a character. But I can see this as a potential for positive stuff. Other characters will fill the time and they'll fill the space. Maybe they'll get something more out of it. Or maybe we'll just have more Adam West episodes. He's always a fun secondary character.
Okay. Well, I guess, that's the thing. Like, when a cartoon show becomes popular, it's because it had certain traits that were required to get it to where it is. But once you're popular, then you can take risks and kill a popular character or say, okay, now the show is this different thing. Whereas, like, you couldn't launch a show without the talking dog or the specific
evil,
mix.
matricidal baby.
Yeah, but
here's the thing: they changed him. He was originally supposed to be like the evil villain that like nobody could really understand, and he was trying to always kill the mom, and she would always just be completely oblivious. They changed that into around the second, third season, where they detoned that and they focused on him being maybe gay baby. Ha! That's a funny concept, right? Let's go with that for a bit. And that really changed his personality. He's no longer the Stuart Griffin that you saw in the original episode, where he was trying very hard to kill his own mother. So they were able to change his personality, and things wound up being okay.
Okay, so Family Guy is a cartoon that changes as
and I'm willing to grant them some respect for that, at least trying to change and be a little different.
I guess so. I don't really see it as necessary, but if they want
well, that's the thing. If you don't change over time, you stagnate, and that's what a lot of people say for The Simpsons. It's like, oh, they've pretty much done everything. You really can't do much to them without changing it too much.
Well, but when you make the decision in the second or third year of your cartoon show, and you decide that no, our Bart is going to be the same height and same grade as he has been the last 2 years, then you start being like, because Stewie hasn't grown up. Stewie's still a baby after how many years has Family Guy been on?
And yet Meg has, I think, aged 2 years. She was originally 16. I think she's supposed to be 18 as of the current season. I have to double check on that.
Oh.
But yeah, they have that's the thing is it was always very just for comedic purposes as to how old they are. Brian, for instance, roommated with a famous figure skater when back in college. But he's only 7 years old. The fact that this guy would have been in college long before he was born, and the fact that he's got like a 13-year-old son, it was always just played for comedy. So they are very much just razzing the sense of it has to maintain one cohesive, continuity. No, we're doing this for the joke.
Okay, so if Brian's age is able to fluctuate, then I don't see why he can't just suddenly reappear in another episode and be like, yeah, whatever, I wasn't dead, I'm just here.
Well, the thing is, they made it a big thing for the episode. He gets hit by the car and he says, thank you all, you've made my life so wonderful before he dies. And then there's the whole thing about grieving and bringing in the replacement dog, Vinny.
Yeah.
Heck, maybe Vinny will wind up being a nice character that doesn't play so well with, Stewie, but actually works better with the other children in the household. Maybe that's where they do the road to stuff. It'll be Vinny and Chris. Maybe they work well together. I'll cross my fingers, proverbially, and say maybe this is not exactly as horrible a thing as the people on the internet have been raging about. I'm willing to say there could be some nice positives out of this. You add another mix to the formula, you change the composition around, you can really highlight some stuff.
That's such a weird thing to say, though, because, like, I don't know if I've expressed this in our conversation yet, but I don't really care if Brian is dead. Like, I didn't love that cartoon dog. I suppose I laughed a few times at him, and also, like, I don't believe he's gone for good. Like, this is the thing, I don't...
Well, it's not like the voice actor got written out. If they want to bring him back as a ghost, it's very easy. Say, okay, you're doing these extra lines again. Remember your Brian Griffin voice. Get started. Snap, snap. So it's not like they have to get the actor in, make a new contract with him or anything. It'll be a lot easier.
So I don't feel any kind of hesitation or angst. I suppose I'll watch more Family Guy in the future, and if I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. And so, yeah, so this doesn't have all this conversation.
Well, I just like the concept of what they're doing and how this could change things out. Because, let me put it this way.
Okay.
Graphite is carbon, right?
Yes.
So is a diamond. All that's really different in that is the how everything's structured between the two.
Yeah, all that's different is everything.
All that's different is the composition between the two.
Every single bond between carbon atoms, but other than that.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, then, the difference between tree cellulose. Like, we have a nice desk in between us here.
Yes.
You can hear that? That's wood. What's the difference between that and the salad we had in the sub we ate just before we started this iteration?
And the lettuce difference.
The lettuce.
What's the difference between lettuce and wood?
What's the difference between the main structure of the compounds in the lettuce versus the cellulose in the wood?
The bonds of it.
One bond. It's an alpha versus beta bond, and that's basically an orientation between digestible and wood.
Oh. Okay.
That's a very little difference chemically, but it produces huge changes.
Okay.
So I'm willing to see this, the whole Family Guy formula this way. You get rid of the Brian, you add a Vinny, and maybe that'll change the composition from maybe it'll go from carbon to diamond. Maybe this was a horrible mistake. Maybe it goes from diamond to carbon. Or maybe it's something that winds up having a thing that changes it from, your lettuce to your wood. Maybe it really makes it much more solid with Vinny in there. Maybe Brian was actually impeding it. He was popular, but he was, preventing these nice arrangements from forming. I don't know. I'm willing to say there's a chance at this. And so I'm going to look at this as not a horrible thing, but the potential for a lot of good, because apparently I'm an optimist at heart.
But who is... okay, well, yeah, I don't even know who is saying it's so horrible.
The internet. There's a lot of people raging, Brian, dead, I'm never going to watch this series again. And I've seen a thing over on the meme-based thing where one guy, has actually, shaved a part of the, hair on his forearm and actually put, Brian Griffin, rest in peace, as a tattoo on his forearm.
People are crazy.
Yes, yeah, especially on the internet. But I'm willing to say that, okay, let's step back here. Maybe this will be a good thing. Maybe it's not going to be as bad as the internet rages.
The bold step.
I'm willing to be optimistic in saying this might not be bad. This might not be horrible for the series. This might be exactly what the series needs. You change a little bit every couple seasons. Maybe you bring in a character. Maybe you take out a character. Maybe the next one to go is Quagmire.
Well, your position sounds perfectly reasonable to me, and I wouldn't have even thought to take the other position.
Well, I just want to think it because a lot of people say The Simpsons isn't changing. It's the same thing it's always been. It's stagnating. Maybe the Family Guy has found the way to keep it from stagnating and keep and make sure it doesn't change too much. A little change every couple seasons. You take out a character, you bring someone in. You take out someone out, you bring someone in. And so long as you have that new, fresh blood, I suppose, is a nice term to use in there, it doesn't stagnate.
Well, what about?
Maybe.
I mean, that's ridiculous because why not, instead of, kill this character or have another baby born or, Stewie has a new baby brother, instead of, something radical like that, just have a few less emphasis on Brian or something like that.
Because Brian is too popular. As long as Brian's in there, people are going to be wanting to see more Brian. They would to change the thing, they have to get rid of him, sort of thing. And by the way, there is another new like half sibling for Stewie.
Oh, okay. Oh, of course, yeah.
Well, there was that one episode where he goes in and he encounters a potential half brother. Long story short, Peter ruined a lot of sperm samples, had to put up for, make up the difference. And so that half brother got out and is now like on, the macro scale as opposed to being like a gametes or whatever the weird thing it was. He was like a full baby kid, but he was not born yet. Weird.
Yeah, cartoons again.
Yeah, the weirdness of the cartoon. It was played for the comedy, because otherwise fighting, if it had been just like half a person sort of thing going on, that could have been an interesting thing, but maybe a little creepy for baby image, but whatever.
And this is once again the cartoon world where, like little sperms are running around and like talking and thinking and stuff, and yet a dog can't come back to life.
Well, that's the thing is people are acting like this is permanent. I'm willing to go with that assumption. Yeah, okay, they got rid of him as a permanent thing. Again, they could maybe bring him back next season. Maybe Stewie's got like all the brain, all the whole thing that makes up the mental persona of each member of the household on file somewhere, and he'll just clone Brian. It'll be Brian too. I don't know. You can do that. Why not? But for now, everyone's saying he's dead. It's forever. This is completely ruined. I'm willing to at least run with the assumption, they did kill Brian as a permanent thing.
Okay. And everybody's mad about this, or
everybody worthy of commenting on this story.
Everybody worthy of commenting.
I noticed it was on the CBC website, sort of thing, and I went through all the comments. And
through the comments. Okay.
I went all through the comment section, and there was, like some people saying okay, I'm happy he's gone. I kind of hated him. He was a contrarian and kind of wishy-washy. And yeah, he used some hard drugs a few times. He really deviated from what he originally started out as, just like the voice of reason.
Okay, so the conservatives are glad he's dead. Because he was a liberal.
A liberal who was, hypocritical sometimes as well. Whatever. So, I read through it, and there was very few people willing. There was nobody willing to say this has the potential for being a very bold, good move. And Seth MacFarlane is not an idiot. He's managed to get 3 TV series going on Fox. It's down.
An idiot.
It's kind of okay. It's Fox with 3 though. Maybe half idiot at best, though, sort of thing. But down to 2. Apparently, the Cleveland show did not get enough viewers. It's closing down.
Isn't he? He's working on the next Cosmos series.
I believe so.
He's involved in it. I don't know how much of a presence he has, but I think
he's got a busy schedule going on.
Okay.
But so I'm willing to grant that he's not, doing stupid blunders. He has at least a concept and a plan, and he's not willing to make these changes unless he believes it's good enough to, to be worthy of it. It's not just we needed one more episode to fill out the season, so we killed a character. We couldn't think of anything else before the deadline. Sorry. So I'm willing to grant that he's not an idiot and that this might be a good thing, and that's my position on the whole thing. Fingers crossed, of course, because let's face it. Apparently, they thought it would be a good idea for Fonzie to jump a shark, and that's how we got the term jumping.
Parliament did that?
No. Back in the Happy Day stuff, they thought it would be a good idea. Like, how do we get more viewers? Let's have it so that they go down to the beach during the summer, and Fonzie has to jump over, on water skis. He has to jump a shark. And that's how we got the term jumping the shark. That's when people realized, no, this is fundamentally changed and stupid now. So apparently people thought that was a good idea then, so hopefully this is not the jumping the shark moment. Fingers crossed. I'm willing to look positively and optimistically on the situation. Even if it may be a little naive, I'll admit.
I don't know what you're talking about, because I don't even care. We've been talking about this long. I don't even care. And you're saying I'll
well,
take
the internet.
Everybody on the chin. And
everybody on the internet is assuming that if they want to comment, they are completely against this for one reason or another. The reasons may vary, but I haven't seen anybody say this might have been a good move. I've seen articles on the website saying, what does this mean? How does this change? What did they do? And I'm like, whoa, guys, step back. Not necessarily bad. Think positive.
Okay.
I know it's hard for the internet to do, Lord knows. thinking positive seems almost alien on some websites.
So, do you think you and Seth MacFarlane are the only people in the world who think this is a good move?
From what I've seen on the internet, it very well may be. Me and the people who write the series. And maybe a Fox executive or two who just signs off on whatever. I'm not willing to go into their minds. They're a weird branch of their own.
Well, it's probably just that he's had so much success that they're willing to let him have that much rope.
And I'm happy that they do that at least, because sometimes you can get the executive strangling on a series, and it's like, we tried to do this, but they wouldn't let us, and now we can't do what we really wanted.
Although it seems with Fox, it's like they'll just cancel you randomly. I
know it's like they don't even understand what concept. Like it's like, okay, they had X-Files. If you look at the number on X-Files for the first season, the numbers weren't great. The second season is when it really took off. But they gave it a chance to have a second season, which they just don't seem to be doing with a lot of the other series anymore. What's that? Cowboys in Space? We'll cancel. We'll even show the last 2 episodes of the season. Get rid of that. Next thing you know, was it 11, 12 years later, they're still trying to get Firefly back on the air. It's a lost cause, but at least they're trying. You got to do something with your spare time. Everyone needs a hobby.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, I don't want to think about it in his Fox executive's mind. That's a black box I don't care to go into.
Okay.
So, yeah, think positive.
Should we skip on ahead straight into our... Well, we've used up most of our podcast, but we can talk about our what was going to be our main topic for the last little bit of it.
All right. I was thinking, if I'm starting up a little campaign for you and I'd run it for you one-on-one. I'm thinking,
cool. Yeah,
like a concept of like a Men in Black sort of thing, because that one works. It could be like a medieval Men in Black, the MMIB. And I want something that had a nice bit of a formulaic thing, so that way you could play for a little bit, and maybe 2 or 3 hours, and bam, it's done, and then you can start up effectively the same way the next time.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of an organization, and then it occurs to me, an organization where you get supplies really doesn't work in the D20 system at all. Be it Dungeons and Dragons, be it D20 Modern, be it D20 Future, Past, whatever D20 system they put out for that, it doesn't really allow very well for getting supplied by a benefactor.
Because, the way D&D is, like, specifically D&D as opposed to other games.
Kill things, take the money, get the money, invest in better equipment, kill bigger things, level up, repeat.
Yeah, exactly. And there's, depending on the edition, but there's actually treasure charts that say at X level you're supposed to have X amount of gold or that much equivalent in gear, right? And,
whereas if you were to play like a D20 Modern thing and you wanted to be a police officer, why are you paying for your own gun, your own a bulletproof vest, and your own police car? Why is the squad not paying for this? Shouldn't you just be given it and you have to fill out the paperwork and all the whole thing? But yeah, you
should. But I don't know if there's a rule in D20 Modern I don't think you can just be a police officer.
Well, there's backgrounds for it, but if you want to set up like a campaign where you're like, okay, I want to be a police officer in this sort of thing, and the other guy wants to be like okay, I will be some your informants or your ground level like snitches. We'll all work together to solve crime, the two-fisted style. Like, I can see that being a decent campaign. It's I mean, heck, they made TV series on a cop that goes against the rules to make sure that he gets justice met.
Yeah, but the game system doesn't have that prepared for you. You have, as a DM, you have to
work around that.
You have to say, well, they've given you this car and this gun and all that stuff.
So then you have to check, okay, what's the value on the car? Are you over-geared for, this level? Should I provide some,
the DM has to think of that because the challenge has to be appropriate, right?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about other systems that have that, where, the World of Darkness sort of thing. If you want money, well, there's like a resources sort of thing for that, and then you fill in however many circles, 1 to 5, as to how many. I suppose you can go 0 circles on resources and be broke, but that's a part of the thing, and how much you can get from that.
Be a vow of poverty monk or something.
Well, you don't get a vow of poverty, anything in the World of Darkness, new or old, I think. You just are poor, and that's how you live. But,
but don't you have those points, so you can spend those on
you'd spend them on other things like, you'd be stronger, faster, maybe you'd have a better mentor sort of thing.
Yeah, you could call it valid poverty.
Yeah, that's, or at least your theme for it. I want to be, like an old style kind of, poor monk sort of thing, wander the earth.
Yeah, but I'm super strong and super agile and can climb on ceilings.
But I do need to suck blood every once in a while, too. So that's the thing I'll have to work out. Not really much like a monk that way, but, other than that, it kind of works.
Vampire monk. I like it.
I think it could work as a campaign idea. By the way, we still haven't figured out which one I want to run for you. If you want to be a vampire monk sort of thing, I can try and work something.
That could be my character.
I think I might be able to make it work for a deathless thing in a D&D style. Yeah, I can make this work. But yeah, there are other settings where this is a different way. The tri-stat system, if you want like a magic weapon, you don't go out and find the magic weapon, kill the creature that has it, and take it, and then all of a sudden you get it. If you want to be able to use it, you have to effectively buy it with the points you get. And so if you don't spend the points for it, I'm sorry, you don't know how to activate the fact that it shoots fireballs or it crackles with electricity until you've bonded with it, by which you pay the amount to actually spend for your character points to get it. You don't have it. Yeah. On the other hand, at the end of any given adventure, it's assumed either you get points back for not having it if, say, someone stole it from you, or you get it back somehow in between like episodes, I suppose you could think of it. It's something you will have again at the start of the next adventure.
Yeah, you just get it automatically.
Even if it fell down a bottomless pit, you get that one or another one back at the start of the next one, or you get your points redeemed back, because if you don't have it, you don't have the points spent for it.
Yeah, well, this matters especially. This is important in games, specifically. Less important in fiction, because in fiction you can just say, oh, well, he got it back. Just, invent a story reason.
Yeah.
And in games you can invent story reasons. The DM can just say, oh, there's a story reason why he got his sword back.
Yeah, some other adventurers found it for you, 20 gold finder's fee, and it's back for you. Trust me, they know how powerful you are. They did not want to risk raising your ire, causing a whole hullabaloo. So, you paid the 20 gold finder's fee, you got your sword back, and now you've got some NPC potential buddies. There. Wow.
Can you imagine that imagine a side quest, like, where you play, like, say you have...
You play the finder?
You have main characters, and they do something in a dungeon or whatever. They lose something somehow. I don't know how it is. And then you play, like, you do a side quest where it's a group of goblins, or maybe not goblins, maybe like...
The lower level flunky sort of, like a comedy, team.
Yeah, and they find it, and, like, then you have the dilemma of, do I keep this, or do I return it and get the finder's fee? I mean, it's a really powerful item.
And I will note, as a DM, I would give an experience point thing for actually returning a weapon. It's like, oh, this belongs to the paladin, so-and-so. I know this is his weapon. I've seen him, walk through town during parades with this weapon, outstretched, showing the glory and might of his deity. We should probably return it to him, because an angry paladin sucks when they're aimed at you.
So you'd grant, that's interesting.
I would grant XP for doing the morally right thing, because it would actually inconvenience you in equipment as well as a little bit of time and energy. So I would be willing to say, okay, yes, you get your karmic bonus for doing this good deed is experience points.
Okay, yeah. I'm almost tempted not to do experience, but to invent something like karma points.
Well, I'd give a karma thing like, okay, you've got one free reroll. You've got such good karma. The deity of good karma says, this. I mean, you don't see this happening in this sort of system.
So what if you were evil, or what if you had what if you simply had a bad...
In that case, I would count it as a boon. The person is so indebted to you knowingly, so you get one boon from them. So that if you're ever in a tight spot and you think you might need their help, you can call upon them, and they will come in and actually, risk their time and money and effort to help you out, because you, helped them out, and they owe you one.
But what if you were evil and you kept it? Then you get nothing, even though you...
Then you get to keep the weapon, and that's bonus itself.
I guess the weapon's its own, reward. I see. Okay, so you're balancing out what the players actually receive. In terms of, their actual... So they have a choice between...
Maybe I've played a number of the old D&D, video games, but yes, returning something like that actually does grant you, some sort of extra bonus.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And heck, if it is a paladin devoted to, like, a god of healing, I'd even be so far as to say, you don't get any experience points, but I got something up my sleeve, and the next time the character is, like, at negative hit points and would be dead, they get an image of the divine being that the paladin worshipped, saying... You have helped mine, so I shall help you. And you get a one-time, no, you're not dead sort of thing. Maybe something like that. Something that really doesn't cover under standard rules.
Okay.
Nice compensation for actually giving up. Because this is D&D we're talking about.
Yeah.
Giving up a magic weapon is almost antithetical to it. You would sell the weapon maybe if you have something better or equal of power, but you don't just give it away, right? No, it's crazy. This is D&D. The purpose is killing monsters, getting money, and getting powerful goods. Giving it away, you're crazy. It's like giving money to charity. Crazy in D&D.
That would be an interesting, like, follow-up to a dungeon adventure. It's like, you found a +2 sword, so-and-so pearls of power, a necklace of fireballs, and a staff of something or other, and a couple wands and some scrolls. Now your job is to go into the town and look up who all these belong
to. So that's the thing, is I remember the Sunken Citadel as the adventure for 3.0 that they had. And it was a decent adventure, but the premise was that there are goblins inside a citadel that had indeed sunken beneath the earth. Yes. Hence the name.
Yeah.
And what they've been doing is they've been raiding trade caravans and going into the nearby town of Oakhurst. Wow, I can still remember the name. The town of Oakhurst, and stealing stuff. And they're like, there's a previous adventure group in there, and I'm like, well, this money that we're taking from the goblins and the kobolds and all this stuff, it kind of belongs to them, and it's like, these two people here, we find their corpses dead from the previous adventuring party. Spoilers, I suppose. Whatever. Like, do we have any real right to loot the body? Shouldn't we be, just like carrying it back to town so they can get a proper burial? This seems against the D&D thing. It's like, oh, hey, the corpse has stuff on it. We will loot it and then leave the corpse behind, as so many other corpses we have left behind before.
Oh, well,
but this is like the body of someone who lived in the town that you just came from. Shouldn't you, maybe, okay, we'll go back to those goblin corpses, take some of the clothes off them, make a nice little splint, and then you carry the corpse with the stuff it had on it back to town for proper burial. These are supposed to be people here, not just, stuff on a corpse is about the same as stuff in a chest, provided the chest is unlocked.
Yeah.
If the corpse comes alive, that's like a locked chest. There's a challenge.
It just depends on your game style, I suppose. I mean, I prefer the game style where you think about stuff, so I like those thoughts. But I guess that can be sort of game bogging down.
Well,
Speaking
that's the
of
thing.
bogging down, though,
I've been in a campaign or two of yours where it's be like, we should really be giving this back to the people they stole it from. But it's a decent amount of money, and this is D&D. Geez, that weighs pretty. These scales are pretty heavy on both sides. I don't know what to do. I think I tried to convince the others to do the right thing, but they naysayed it, so I went with the group rules. So 2 out of 4 vote the other way. Well, that's outweighs my vote. I guess I have to keep the money. Oh, darn.
Right. But speaking of bogging down, we were talking about the gear and the appropriateness of the gear that you're getting, and how to
gear, wealth, whatever term it is for the stuff you have, the materials.
Yeah.
And so the whole D20 system revolves around it. You can't just be given it as part of like a squad. It seems almost against the core nature of the game, as it would be as against the game as not fighting would be against the game.
Well, I mean, you see in D&D, in the medieval version, you do sometimes see like a powerful, a patron, like a king or a powerful merchant or somebody will lend the characters some...
But more often it works the other way. It's, you rescue my princess and then I'll give you money, not... My princess daughter has been captured. I am very upset about this. Let me equip you guys with the best stuff the kingdom can get for you, and then go kill the dragon.
Sometimes they do, but it happens.
But it seems more often that the trope is, okay, she's being kidnapped. Anybody who can kill the dragon that's got her, then I'll get you better stuff. And it seems a little stupid.
Maybe, yeah, and well...
For lack of a better term.
I guess it also depends on how many adventurers are knocking down the king's door, trying to win his favor. Because if there's one group, sort of the king can be like, well, I have this ancient ancestral weapon handed down through my family, but you're our last hope. Whereas if there's adventuring group after
this
adventuring
week
group,
it's so and so
coming by, it's like I'm only going to give this to somebody I really
tell you what, you get a free healing potion upon official pronouncement. It's a cure light wounds, so best of luck, because dragon breathes fire.
This potion of cure light wounds has been passed down from generation to
passed
generation.
down from the cleric who gave it to me this morning to me to you. It's not that low-level magic campaign. I do have some say with the churches around here, so you get one free for every official show-up and pronouncement that you're actually, going to do it, rather than just, we kill in this direction, and then we just didn't kill your daughter, we brought her back. In which case I'd still be happy, But it does seem as though the standard tropes are that you do the deed, then you get the better equipment, as opposed to you get well-equipped, and then you go out and do that. Although I would like to see a campaign or someone who would try that, get a proper patron, and then they go off on an expedition, and they have to come back with so many things of like art, not magical artifacts, but like, oh, we got these nice rubbings of like the tune here, and this is what it says. This will you can make a nice manuscript out of this, and you'll have like the only manuscript of that, and then people will pay money for copies of it, and you'll be a philanthropist, and half of all the gold, that we find in this trap-laden tomb goes back directly to you until we pay off however much we, borrowed from you.
Yeah, and well, D&D as a whole, it seems to be a very like individualistic pursuit. In like sort of the default mode is that we're one person. A group of individuals. It's supposed to be a group of 4, but it's so individualistic. You do see that as a chronic problem, like the backstabbing. Yeah. I try and steal from them. I try and take more than my fair share. They're weaker. The rabble, it's got to be me. I got to have my turn in the spotlight because I'm just here with these other 3 people. That we got a mutual non-aggression pact as we're running through the dungeon. Yeah. It doesn't seem always like it's a group like it should be. It seems like 4 individuals. Well, and often also the individuals will have alternative allegiances, like this person is a member of this noble family, or a distant member, so whatever.
They're like 24th in line for a minor throne.
Yeah, but I mean they still have family alliances, and this other person, well, he's a gnome and he's very loyal to his clan.
This person here is the paladin or a cleric, and they're loyal to the god, and their church is sometimes being at odds with the royal family as to how the kingdom should be run. So, although they're all working ostensibly as a team, they're not exactly aligned as how you would ideally prefer it.
Yeah.
Not laser-focused, more like just, torchlight, kind of diffracted light.
And it's often seen as sort of a radical departure to add in those, like, very societal ties and constraints. Well, I mean, because it is a little bit difficult, you have to do a little bit of storytelling to get it to fit.
It seems almost sometimes you do have to kind of like shoehorn it in, though. It seems very against the core nature, and it struck me as I had this thought. It's like I had no realization beforehand just how the system worked so integrally, because I've been playing it for like literally decades now, and the concept that getting loot appropriate to your level was as integral as actually fighting and killing monsters to the system. Like, everyone knows about the fighting and killing monsters. That's the joke. I mean, we're killers who steal stuff, but that's okay because they weren't good people we were killing, so it's all right. But the whole loot for level concept it's only just recently struck me as being that's like very core to the system. So now I'm gonna have to check out the D&D Next and go through it and see if they keep that. Because if they don't, then maybe it won't feel like D&D. Even if it's true on all the other levels, people play and go, just doesn't feel right to not, kill things, take the money, get better equipment from it.
Yeah. And, well, if you look at, too, historically, like an adventuring company, they might have a clause written in their contract that, whoever funded them and equipped them, say like a queen or a patron or whatever, funded them and equipped them, that person then is entitled to so much of the loot, or even all of it sometimes.
In this case, I don't suppose adventuring party works. It'd be more like expedition.
Yeah,
That's just the term they historically, I think, preferred.
Yeah, so they send you out on an expedition, and you don't own what you find. Like,
no,
it
you're doing
to
it.
The king.
You are doing it on behalf of your patron. You are their arms. They got to be wherever they have to be. They're nobles. They got to be at certain places.
And that's always interesting if it's a party, and if like one member is like working for a king or something like that, and they've sort of contracted that all the loot would go back to the king, and then the other members of the party, well, we didn't sign that contract.
And see, this is why I keep coming back to the paladin, because that's the only sense I've been able to find was back in 2nd edition, tithing. The paladins give 10% of everything they get for value, so, if you don't have to give like 1/10 of a sword back, but 1/10 of its value to your patron church. And that was the only instance I've been able to think of whereby you did have that patron and a system for it. In which case, I'd have to say, just because of pre-existing rules, if you want to work up something like that in your game, 10% seems, I guess, fair. It's simply because it's the only system that actually pre-exists in there.
Well, as far as a hard and fast rule, I mean, you can basically be arbitrary. As the DM say, this particular guildmaster has hired you, but he says that he wants 60% of what you bring back.
In which case, I suppose that's like a diplomacy, etiquette, bluff sort of type checks.
You could have a little negotiation.
In which case, hey, the bard finally comes in handy and pulls their weight. Why? Because you only have to give 30% of the gold back, not 60. Does he help in anything other than a +1 as he sings while you're fighting goblins? No, but he made sure you only have to give back half the loot you would have otherwise.
Yeah.
So.
And then what happens if the stuff you borrowed gets broken or used up, or if the car that you're issued gets wrecked? I guess that's fine because it wasn't yours to begin with. So.
In the case of a police officer, it would explain why there are so many cop car chases in there. You can see it as a perspective of like a D&D thing. It's like, I didn't pay money for this. I can ruin it and it's coming back the next time anyway.
That's interesting. I have heard that police in recent years have, I don't know if every jurisdiction has decided to do this, but they've taken policies against chasing. Like they don't, if somebody decides to run from the cops, the police don't chase them anymore. It depends on the jurisdiction,
I think it works if it's in like a busy area versus like rural. Rural area, you can pretty much freely chase a person, whereas in a more urban setting, you can expect a cop every such and so far of a distance. So you can say, be on alert, he's heading south here, not going to try pursuing directly, just keep an eye out and we can figure out which way he's going and then we can effectively track him.
Yeah, well, and I suppose also in our modern era, we have all kinds. We have obviously we have more air power, but we also have a system where it's not like if you get across the county line, they can't follow you anymore.
Yeah,
it's like no, they just pass you off to the next department.
In which case, they've probably given proper warning. Good luck trying to get across that border. Anyways, they'll catch you right on the other side because they've got that nice little line with the anti-tire strips laid down. Every 10 feet or so, just to make sure they rip every tire to shreds.
But I like that. Imagine like the D&D world, like when you're trying to escape from the law, like that is a reality. Is that all you have to do is get across a border or some kind of a county line. And you can be free, scot-free, and they don't chase you.
You should be scot-free. Whether or not the guard decides to say, well, you know what, you're on that border, so I can't arrest you, but I can fire crossbow bolts on my side. Doof, doof, doof. And then all of a sudden you got to at least run out of line of sight.
Out of bow shot.
Yeah.
And then assuming that what you did wasn't bad enough for them to hire, what do you call it?
Mercenaries
to follow you over.
Which, by the way, gets to be a little bit ironic because there's always a thing like, so-and-so has escaped, we need you to hunt down and find this person, in which case you're the bounty hunter or mercenary.
Yeah.
So in the case where you're on the run, you're effectively being hunted by copies of yourself, which, as a DM's tip, would make for a very excellent way to get cheap stats for the mercenaries coming after PCs on the run. You just get them, and then you cheapen up the gear a little bit, one negative level to all of them, and then bam, it's just the same thing coming after them as them. It's a nice point, an easy way, and as a DM, a shortcut always helps. So I'm throwing that out there for those who are listening.
Yeah, just don't tell your players that you're doing that.
Well, that's the thing. There's a long history of that in D&D. I remember 2nd edition for alternate worlds and prime material plane differences. How long will it take for the PCs to realize that reptilian sorcerer is really just the copy of the PC sorcerer? Let's find out. Is basically what it said. It's like, okay, yeah, it's all reptile people, but you know what? This reptile, arrogant, spellcaster is actually the wizard from the PC party. How long before they realize it? Just because it doesn't look the same. So that has a nice pedigree there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so do you think it should be okay to just say, okay, you've got the gear in D&D, that we're going to pump you up for a little extra gear, but we're going to give you some extra tougher monsters now? It's like, okay, you're a cop, and sure, we're giving you a free gun and a car, but now you got to fight a werewolf. And so unless you buy silver bullets or put in maybe chrome works on werewolves, get a nice chrome bumper, you got to think of some better way to get the werewolf.
Well, I will share. I don't know if I've shared my feelings on challenge lately, or on the podcast at all. But I feel like lots of lesser challenges are the way to go. I mean, you need a few tough ones to make characters feel like they're in danger.
That's how you kind of know you've hit the climax of the story plot for the adventure.
But as far if the characters are running over encounters, I'm actually kind of okay with that because you can always throw another encounter at them. You can always move them on to the next thing. So if they just use their car to run over the bad guy or something, or
in this case, I'm saying werewolf because in this case, it's an opponent that is effectively immune to the extra gear that they've got. So they have to think, outside of the gear, in which case they're much more truer to their actual level.
It could be, yeah, I suppose.
But I am willing to grant it. Like chrome is a lot like silver, so I'm thinking on a mystical scale, maybe a chrome bumper hits as hard as a silver bumper to a werewolf.
But I can see your concern though with here's this button to win every encounter. Like here's a machine gun in a medieval world, and then suddenly you own everything.
Well, so I think I've heard a couple things where it's like, oh yeah, and then they were at second level, but they had a sword powerful enough they could defeat the most powerful creatures in the game. It's like, oh yeah, I'm second level, but I'm killing liches with this sort of sword, haha. And it's like, wait, what's going on now? That doesn't sound quite right.
You might have to consider, I suppose, reducing XP level. This is again getting into the sort of nitty gritty of D&D and how that system
How much
works.
did you truly earn it? How much did you work for it?
But you could in theory reduce XP level if the characters have more gear than they probably should for their level.
Which is interesting. Then you could work it as a parallel to the the people that are badly multi-class. If you're separated by 2 or more levels and you don't have favored class for either of them, you get an experience point penalty. So you can say that if you're over-geared by more than 1 character level, so effectively, so you're a first level character but you got gear enough for a 3rd level, you get a 20% experience point penalty. On the other hand, if you're a 3rd level character but all of a sudden you find yourself naked in the woods, you're effectively in the same gear as a 1st level character, you get a 20% experience point bonus for being under-geared and surviving.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. And I guess another, another aspect of my DMing philosophy is actually reduce the XP overall. Have the progression be slower. And I know, it depends on your group, and so some groups will need that extra level. But I feel like a lot of the things could actually give you less XP. And, because I feel like progression should come in the players learning how their characters work.
Well, speaking as someone who cut his teeth on 2nd edition, and you'd have to kill, a small society of kobolds to get to 2nd level, I like that.
Okay, yeah.
I found the longer periods between leveling up lent to better tactical use. Because you're not changing for a little while yet, you learn to work a little bit better, you learn to know your weaknesses and learn to cover them better that way, as opposed to saying, I just got to get through this fight, and then 9 more, and not die, and I become more powerful, and this doesn't become so much of a problem for me.
I like this also when it applies to gear, too, because with gear, it's you really learn how to operate your character, roll your right dice and use the right feats or use the right skills and abilities, and then if you suddenly get given, a car or a gun or something really powerful that compared to what you had before, you were just a street level guy before, and now you have.
Now you're a street level guy with a bazooka.
It's you don't get a chance to play with all that stuff you learned how to get really good at manipulating.
Why bother with all the stuff you mastered for the low end stuff? You got the I win button right here, man. It's called land to air missiles, baby.
But of course, I think that's getting cool things like bazookas is necessary for just to have fun.
I won't lie. There's always something special in a game when you the D20 modern and you've got the FX items, which are the equivalent to the magical items. It's oh, what's that? I get a chainsaw that doesn't rely on the normal laws of physics and can cut through armor without stopping. I've got a magic chainsaw. Oh boy.
Yeah. As long as you got enough chance to enjoy what your character had before, or suffer through, I guess, as the case may be.
If you killed the psycho wielder who had the chainsaw beforehand, you've earned that chainsaw. You may have to spend some time in the hospital getting those tears in the muscles all repaired up before you can use it. Make sure the broken bones heal up. But you get that when you get out of the hospital. Start considering where you're going to put your next feat into. Exotic weapon proficiency, maybe. It's worth it. Trust me, it's worth it.
I remember playing a D&D 2nd edition game, it was a short, I think 1 or 2 sessions it ended up lasting. But I remember when we played, we were early, first level characters or something like that.
Where even the fighter can have only 4 hit points.
Exactly, and the funny thing about that game I noticed is that the characters were sort of defined by, they weren't that different, personality-wise, the actual skills and everything like that.
Well,
it's just
proficiencies in 2nd edition.
It's this guy here, he has a sword, so he's the fighter. And if he were to give the sword to somebody else, that other person would be the fighter, because the person with the sword is the fighter. And I don't know how the mage is defined, but it's something like,
is he wearing toilet paper for armor? He's the spellcaster. He's the arcane spellcaster. Because even back then, if you're a cleric, you still got your heavy plate mail you can wear.
Right. Well, and plate mail's another. Well, you wouldn't get plate mail at first level.
That's one of the things that they did in 4th edition. I believe they're doing in D&D next that they're doing with. Nobody starts out with the heavy weapon, heavy armor proficiencies. Yep. It's something you get either later on, or you take the feat for it, so that nobody starts out proficient in, the full plate mail. And I kind of like that. That seems like, the chances of you as a first level character being trained in plate mail, not really, something that can be expected to happen, especially if you're not starting with plate mail. But later on you train to use it because you're a better fighter now, and that makes sense. That's your role as a tank. That's why you can have it. And so the concept of even clerics only having moderate, armor proficiency, I'm much happier with. If you want to be the tank, you take the feat or you get the right stuff, and then you go into your heavy armor proficiencies, and that's how you know your role. And I say, I like that. Because the concept of a cleric in full plate mail has always angered me slightly. It's like, you already cast spells. You can use all sorts of weapons. You shouldn't need this as well. Plus a die 8 for hit die. That's my nerd rage, by the way.
All right.
So the concept that if they want to become the tank, they do have to work towards it. They don't just automatically start out, I can be the tank whenever I feel like it.
Yeah, well, they can be a kind of tank just by being the guy who stands in the way, even though he doesn't actually have that much, protection.
Well, they can get their spells for the combat buffing, and but the fact that they don't start out now with the heavy armor proficiency, I feel it's a little bit better off.
Yeah.
In which case, it does make the plate, the full plate, and half plate, the heavy armors feel like themselves. They're not magical, but they feel like there's something you upgrade to, like almost as though they were, we'll say, half magical items. It's like, they're not magical, but you get a really sweet bonus, and this is how you know you're a tank, man. That's a tank because you're in the suit, man. You're in the turtle shell.
Well, we've been talking for just over 90 minutes.
And you know what? I say it was worth spending the extra time talking about this because I like my 20% experience bonus penalty based on your gear equivalent level.
Yeah,
that's something I'm going to take with me into D&D elsewhere. So, because let's face it, the times where the mage has lost their spell book because thieves in the night and suddenly they're useless. No, that's okay. I just say you're down to effectively this character level for equipment. You're going to gain a 60% experience point bonus until you gain your equipment back, or equivalent equipment thereof.
Yeah, that can work. Yeah.
And at least that way they're not moaning. It's like, I was like, 60% bonus? That's a lot of extra experience points. I'm going to suffer, but it's not needless suffering.
I want to warn a little bit against that. I mean, just use your judgment as a DM because you don't want to apply bonuses and penalties for every single mitigating factor.
But for
it
some...
was raining that day, so you get a 10% bonus or something.
No, but this is something whereby, because it's so integral to the game as it turns out, that where you'd be, so, under, geared for it, just surviving it all should be seen as just near miraculous. So that near miraculous qualifies as, difference in level of, gear equivalency, 20% after, 2 levels per sort of thing. So, congratulations. Your suffering is never needless now to this homebrew rule. I may write it up, I may send it out to my nerd friends. This has to be known. This is a good house rule, I think.
I wouldn't be surprised if other people have already implemented it. So,
but I haven't heard of it before. So in my little gaming circle, I mean, I'm in on Facebook, part of an old gamers thing, and this is something that comes up as people mention. I want to run this past by them. I want to see if this is something that they can take and say, that is the balm on the wound sort of thing. It does make it a little bit, better knowing that although I lost, it's not a full loss. I can, get this back and not suffer needlessly, which is, I think, always my guideline. Is your suffering purposeful? Well, then it's part of the plot. Is it needless suffering? Then it's just being sadistic. I'll try and avoid that part. So there you go.
There we go. I want to remind people of GotaCon coming up in February, at the end of February.
Is it the end of February now?
Yes,
okay.
The end of February. Victoria, British Columbia. Be there. Buy your tickets. I believe they're still on sale.
And keep an eye out as to what attractions are coming up. They have stuff signing up to it seems like the last moment sometimes as to, this panel's coming on, or this contest is going through. So keep an eye out. Keep hitting the website.
That's GotaCon.com. Hit up our website, thesimulationist.com.
Or just Google the Simulationist, Bing the Simulationist. We're pretty much up there on the charts for the Simulationist.
Find us on Facebook. Leave a comment. Leave a like us on Facebook if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter at SpaceBoot1, SpaceBoot numeral 1.
Leave a comment over on YouTube. But not a spam comment, please.
I'll take spam at this point in the future.
Okay. We're willing to accept spam for now, but when we get really big and popular. We're going to have to respectfully ask that you go somewhere else for your spamming. Unless the topic of the iteration is spam and stuff, therefore, in equivalencies in other fictions, in which case, completely acceptable to use spam on that comment when it happens.
Yep, cool. Anything else I think that's all that we have to mention. Tell your friends all about us if you enjoyed this podcast.
Happy holidays. I mean, this is the first day of December, so,
happy Hanukkah to everybody out there.
Was it Thanksgiving Hanukkah combo it was this year for the Americans?
Yeah, we had a Thanksgiving a while ago, but, okay. Now let's just, any final thoughts on the whole, the things we talked about today?
I think it's worth looking into this sort of stuff and just realizing what is the core experience in a system. What is the core basics? Before this occurred to me, as I was just idly thinking, I had no clue just how basic gear and gear level was to D&D. And there was nothing in 2nd edition that had this. If you had the gear, you had the gear. If you're overgeared, you're overgeared. If you're undergeared, oh well, haha. There was nothing that even said, by this level you should have this much for magic items or stuff like that. It was just given out ad hoc by the Dungeon Master. So it's nice to see that at least it's being acknowledged by the game designers in 3rd edition, 4th edition, and D&D Next what your gear level should be at. So it's nice to know. Some people say it's a bad benchmark, but I think we've been able to prove them wrong this week. Ha-ha! Take that.
Okay. And on that note, send us email, thesimulationist@gmail.com. Send us money. My name is Josh Trelevin.
I'm in Ryan Kirkby.